We talk about the American electronic warfare suites, which are some of the most crazy laser-powered super technology in the world. It doesn't work like the technology we've given to Ukraine if it's just destroyed by Lancet strikes, Giron strikes, and artillery barrages. I mean, your
I think the
electronic
Russians
warfare
have a
suites
lot
are
of.
fantastic. If
They've
they
got a
don't
lot more variety too. I mean, they've got that one Merman system, which is like these huge towers that supposedly could like black out thousands of kilometers at one time, but you never hear about them using them. So I wonder if they don't use them because maybe it interferes with their equipment too. Like it's so good, it just kills everything, so you can't operate in there. So maybe that's why they haven't used it. Because I would think if they could operate, they would just black out an area and just go to town because nobody would know what was going on.
But if we're on the same topic, it's not just that the Russians have like artillery power. It's not like they can just flatten a whole area. If the Ukrainians try to launch aircraft and try to push through a certain area, if the Ukrainians go on the offensive with aircraft, air support, tank support, and all this, the Russians they've got like a lock both on the ground and on the sky because these Buk M1, M2, and M3 systems, the S300 systems, S400 systems. I actually don't think there's any S400 systems in Ukraine, solely because there's no purpose for them at the moment. But
they could put them right on the border.
Yeah, and they would be hitting. They could put it on the border of Rostov or Belgorod and be shooting aircraft down over Zaporozhye.
Same with the S500. I mean, they would probably just put it as close as they could and just turn it on and scare people.
So are the Ukrainians at all able to because I get the impression that the Ukrainians can come to more or less to par with the Russians on with a regional parity or like a local parity. They can muster to the point where they are more or less on par with the Russians, but it will be only on few places along the whole front line. And it's such a high cost if they do it. Like, okay, fine, but then you are compromising the security everywhere else. So that explains kind of why the casualties have been so high, like why they have to rely so much on infantry as well. Because, well, yeah, they might have the equipment in theory to kind of apply it. They also have to consider a border all across their most of their country. Actually, it's also Belarus and most of the other border of Russia. They have no reason to assume that the Russians wouldn't just decide that screw it, we're going to cut you off from Europe, for example, or no, now we're going to go and take your capital, or yeah.
I wonder how much stuff they're holding back in the West, just for the chance that they think Russia might come down from Belarus.
Ah, man, that would be a fun one, wouldn't it? That would.
Because they gotta keep something, but they gotta everything they got is going into like Bakhmut and everything else. It's like plus everything they've lost over the last couple of months in offenses. But I would think they gotta be keeping something good back. I mean, you can't be having no M55s protected.
A lot of it is held in Poland, perhaps, because
M55s, the Slovakian M55s are already in combat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
all the equipment that are being donated, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of it is kept in Poland just simply to avoid, because if they start massing tanks and miscellaneous weapons, just whether they're storing it in the West or whatever, the Russians don't care. Now they have entered Ukraine; they're free for us to go after. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure, like of a lot of the things that are earmarked for Ukraine and kind of yes, this is delivered. It's still in Poland because the only ones who can actually fire at Poland is Ukraine, apparently.
At this point, I think Russia should probably maybe try and at least take Kharkiv because it's just right there, like right next to the border, so they can like stop the shelling in Belgorod, right?
If only it was that easy.
Right, but it is that's one thing. But it's also an expense for Ukraine because they don't have a power structure to keep this going. Everything else that they keep capturing, like in Kherson and so forth, is also an expense for them. It's because with the infrastructure failing everywhere, they are basically conquering humanitarian catastrophes, which are just basically going to be wearing them more out. So, like, yeah, sure, it looks nice on the map, but the more they are conquering, the more they will defend and hold, and they will. So it's the Russians can also just okay, Kharkiv was lost. Fine, let's keep on with Bakhmut. We're still going on with that one, and it's going slow. But they seem to be like that one. They haven't yielded. Have you guys noticed? They seem to like have a constant one all the time. Like they're not. Bakhmut and Donetsk is like not necessarily like massive offensives or anything, but they're making it very clear for the Ukrainians, like you guys you leave one moment, we will come through, right? Like they're making that one sure. And so that's why I think that, like, okay, now we have we are so consolidated that Ukraine, which is actually the weaker side, we can now put them at further disadvantage. They are pressed to do something because of the infrastructure issue, and also the waning support from Europe, but they are also at a further disadvantage because they are now forced to conduct offensives, which are more costly, and they don't have the parity or superiority to actually conduct that even like modestly as successful as the Russians did. And so in the long run, right, it's been noted several times here, right? They are at the sixth or seventh mobilizations, and the Russians haven't even committed their first mobilization. Yeah, they're eighth. Yeah, you see, right? And so it's so the Russian. I'm increasingly convinced that the Russians are deciding to, like, if we just hold up where we are, it's at least not going to get that much more expensive.